Welcome to the Wireless LAN News Desk. My name is Tom Carpenter. I'm the CTO at CWNP, and it is June 1st, 2018. Now, we're finalizing a three-part series this week on making a success of your wireless LAN career. I've been talking to you about my perspective on this, and that when I talk to other people, I share with them something I call the foundations of effectiveness. It's three ability areas that you should focus on: relational abilities, self-management abilities, and technical abilities. We talked about relational abilities in the first part in this series, and I told you I believe it's the most important skill set. Then we talked about self-management abilities, and I believe it's equally important to technical abilities, and sometimes more important. And now we're going to talk about technical abilities. But before I talk about them specifically, let me back up and give you a little more information you've probably been waiting for. Maybe you disagreed with me in the previous news desks when I said relational abilities were more important than technical abilities. Let me explain to you why I say that. I briefly alluded to it before, but here's the thing. If you're going to do a particular job, it's expected that you have the technical abilities to do that job. For example, if you're being hired to design wireless LANs for a value-added reseller who deploys wireless devices, and you're going to go in and design the wireless networks, they're going to sell all of the APs, and you get the job of designing. Well, what's assumed? You can design a wireless network. That's assumed. Maybe you're a CWDP or even a CWNE. Maybe you have high-level certifications with the vendor that they sell. The point is, the technical knowledge is assumed. Yes, of course you have to do that. So when I say relational abilities are more important, I simply mean they're overlooked. Most of us who work in the technical arena, we focus on the technical abilities. We overlook the relational abilities sometimes, or we overlook the self-management abilities. And then we get out there doing the job which we're technically well trained for. We have the skill. We're good at our technical job. And we get out there and we fail because we don't communicate well. We didn't listen to the customer's needs. We designed what we thought they should have instead of what they actually needed. So all of that to say, that's why I say relational abilities are more important than technical abilities, because we're going to assume you have them. But now I'm going to step back and say, what are some technical abilities that you might be lacking, or maybe you need to fill the gap if you want to be successful in a wireless LAN career? So let me suggest 5 technical abilities that I think you should master if you haven't already. And if you've mastered them in the past and maybe you've forgotten them somewhat, go back and review them. Number 1, master binary math and the way computing systems think. This is what I tell every person that works in technology. And I've had people attend training classes with me in the past. I've done hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands of training classes since 1997. And of all those people, every class I tell them, you need to make sure you master this skill, binary math and the way computing systems or devices think. If you do that, then it's easier to understand everything properly. For example, if you're looking at 802.11 frames, you don't really understand binary, there's going to be some confusion there. So it's important to understand binary for that. If you're trying to understand modulation in Wi-Fi, but you don't understand binary, there are going to be some challenges with that. So the point is that understanding binary math and the way computer systems and networks think is absolutely an essential foundational skill set. And then here's the thing that's amazing. I've had so many people in my training class over the years that have said to me, Tom, you know what? I went out and I got a book and I studied it and I learned that, and so many light bulbs started going off. And what I mean by that is they started understanding things they never really understood before. They had an awareness, they had a comprehension that was missing because this foundational piece was not there. Number 2, know wired networking well. And when I say wired networking, I'll include the higher layers in that. I'll include IP, TCP, UDP, HTTP, and et cetera, and so on. So layers 3 through 7 can certainly be included in there. But it's important to understand wired networking specifically, because that's where stuff comes from to your wireless network. So if you don't understand the wired side, you can run into problems. For example, implementing end-to-end quality of service for wireless networks means you got to understand wired QoS as well as wireless QoS. Being able to understand the link speeds you're going to need for uplinks from your switches and things like that requires understanding some things about wired networking. DHCP, DNS, they probably come from your wired network. So wired networking skills are essential. I know most people probably started with wired and then moved to wireless, but we've got a whole new generation of people that are coming up now. And guess what? A lot of them are saying, wireless is cool to me. I want to get into Wi-Fi. And they never really get any intensive training on wired networking. If you haven't, go back and grab it. Number 3, have at least a moderate competency in programming. Understand programming. If you've never done any programming, then go and do some programming. PHP, great place to start. It's a common language people use today, and there are some modules available for it that make it great for working with Wi-Fi stuff. You can do Python, another one that's great for doing work with Wi-Fi stuff. Basic, sure, you can do Basic. There are all kinds of basic compilers out there today that you can get your hands on. Batch files, Linux shell scripting, what have you. Start doing some programming. Why? Because it's going to make you more effective and efficient. You'll be able to put tools together to get things done faster without as much time invested. I am a big believer that understanding at least the basics of coding skills is very, very key. Number 4, know how operating systems work, how they really work. Understand operating systems. When you're dealing with device driver issues, when you're dealing with Wi-Fi connectivity issues, if you don't understand the operating system on which you're working, you're going to struggle. Today, you need to know Windows, certainly. It's the dominant operating system still in most enterprise networks. Mac OS has gained a lot of traction over the last decade or so that's an important one to know about. And of course, Linux is always good to know about. But then you've also got your mobile operating systems like Android and iOS. So it's very important to just understand these operating systems. Spend some time at least browsing a book on the architecture of these operating systems and how they function. Understand some of the low-level operating systems, the kernels, these kinds of things, so you can grasp what you're dealing with. And finally, number 5, that's right, this is the news desk for Wi-Fi stuff, right? So number 5, never stop learning about wireless. There's always something more to learn. You'll run into CWNEs that tell you, I learned this really cool thing about wireless last week, because they don't stop learning. It's really a trademark of CWNEs that they don't stop learning. So make sure you never stop learning about Wi-Fi if that's where you want your career success to be. Continue to learn about it. And also learn about other wireless technologies, LTE, 5G, Bluetooth, Zigbee, RFID, IoT proprietary stuff, whatever you can learn about. Understand these different wireless technologies. Well, that wraps up our making a success of your wireless LAN career. So remember, relational abilities, self-management abilities, technical abilities. You need them all. You need them all in balance. Let me wrap this series up by just mentioning that the amount of focus in those 3 areas can change depending on your level of responsibility over time. So when you first start out, if you're at a help desk, then relational abilities is important, but your technical abilities may be more important at that point in time. And then as you move along, you find that your relational abilities start to become more and more important, and your self-management abilities start to increase. So depending on the role you play, by the time you get to a CTO or a CIO or something like that, if you aspire to that, you'll find yourself in a situation where relational and self-management abilities are by far so important that technical abilities have greatly diminished at that point. So depending on where you want to go and what you want to do with your career, you'll see changes in the different levels of knowledge that you need in these different areas. So make sure you consider that as you grow in success. Well, that's all I have for this Wireless LAN News Desk. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for tolerating these last 3 news desks over the last 3 weeks, where I've shared with you something I'm very passionate about, the foundations of effectiveness that can help to make a success of your wireless LAN career, or any technical career for that matter. If you haven't already, subscribe below, click subscribe. You can click the bell to get notified, and we post these every week, as well as webinars that get archived on CWNP TV. Also, if you didn't know, we're going to San Diego for Wi-Fi Trek this year in October. If you haven't already registered, go to conferences.cwnp.com to find out more and to get registered for this exciting event where great wireless LAN minds are going to gather together and share their nuggets of knowledge and information. It's been great being with you, and I'll see you next week.